What's up, guys? I'm here at the OSS store today, and for those of you who don't know, today's Thursday, so that means it's Thirsty Thursday. Oh no, wait, that's tonight. Today is Tech Thursday. Yeah, that's the one. And for today's tutorial, I'm gonna do one of the most highly requested, and it's also the most technical, how to build your wheel. So here are the essentials we're gonna be using. Number one, we have a rim. I'm going to be using the Fly Pyramid rim. And then I'm gonna be lacing this new Sunday Cyclone Freecoaster, right-hand drive. And it's gonna be laced with Animal 186mm spokes. So as you can see, we got a little hybrid going of different brands. I like to show love to all the brands that support the shop, so we're gonna show some love right back, right? So, another thing you're gonna need is a spoke wrench. And we have this Park tool, it's green, I think it's a 15, and that's what we're needing for these nipples. And lastly, a truing stand. Very important part of this, because once you build the wheel, then you're gonna need to lace it. So, for starters, I would recommend you go online and check out any spoke calculator, and you could just type in the hub that you have. It'll basically know the measurement of the flanges, whether both of them are equal or not. As you can see, this one, the drive side flange is a little taller than the non-drive side flange, and the reason they do that is to A, save weight, and B, so that there's less area for the spokes to get damaged when you're grinding. But this one comes with a hub guard, so it's just a cool little thing that people do to save weight. All right, so I think we're all ready. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew and EDM music, so I'm ready to bang this out real fast. So it's gonna be hard to keep up with me. I'll try and take my time and explain it very thoroughly, but it's gonna be very straightforward. We're gonna be lacing a Fly 36-hole rim, and it's gonna be laced 3-cross. So I'll explain all that as I'm going, but let's just get to it. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh wait, I'm doing a tutorial, not a podcast. All right, that's next, so coming soon. All right, so very important. I like to be sitting down when I'm doing this because it's a tedious task, and I really don't know how long it might take you guys. It could take you as fast as 15 minutes, or it could take you 2 hours. So let's assume it's gonna take you on the longer end. So let's sit down, get comfortable, and acquainted with the situation. So first and foremost, open your pack of spokes. Boom. Usually spoke bags come with either 40 or 50 spokes, and that's because you're either gonna be lacing a 36 spokes, we'll give you 4 extra spokes, or you're lacing a 48 hole, which is more rare, and they only give you 2 extra spokes. Yo, what's up with that? But anyways, back to it. So yeah, so you wanna lay out the spokes here on the table, and then there's a little bag with nipples. I usually just open the nipple bag, and I don't disperse the nipples everywhere because these are small and they go everywhere, and you don't have that many to spare, so you want to be careful. You don't want to lose these bad boys. So usually I disperse a little bit on the table, keeps them in the bag, keeps them on the table. All right? You want to double check to make sure you got an actual 36-hole rim. And yes, this Pyramid 2 rim is actually 36-hole, and this hub is 36 holes as well. And then you're all ready to go. So, first and foremost, if your hub has any kind of hub guard, remove that now. This will make it easier to put the spokes in. I mentioned that there's some hubs, and as you can see, this was one of them, where one flange is taller than the other one. Another thing you want to know about these flanges is that there are 18 holes on this side, and there are 18 holes on this side, but these holes, if you were to drop a spoke straight through both of them, they're actually staggered. So it's not a straight line. I don't know if you can tell here, but this isn't straight, it's actually offset. And the reason for that is that when you're going to build one side of the wheel, when you build the other side, the rim's holes have to match up, but they're gonna be slightly offset. And the reason for that offset pattern is that when you look at a rim, the rim is also offset. So these holes, as you can I think you might be able to see it there, these holes are actually offset. And it's basically offset to the same scale or ratio. So if it's like a millimeter here, it might be 4 millimeters here, but the ratio of separation will be the same. Just a random fact just for you to keep in mind. So, the first thing you want to do is grab a little handful of spokes. We're going to be dropping all the spokes with the threaded part downwards. And when you're dropping it, you're going to be dropping it in every other hole. So here's one, and then boom, you drop it in one in between. So every other hole. Boom, boom. And if you think about it, if this is a 36-hole rim, there's gonna be 18 on each side. Like I said, when we're dropping these threaded part down, there should be 9 of these because you're gonna miss every other hole. So let's get going here. Let's finish up. All right, so let's wrap this up. And Boom. If we count it real quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So these are 9 spokes facing down. So I saw some other tutorials online on how to lace a wheel. You know, I had to do my research before I dropped this for you guys. And I noticed that some of them, you know, built one side, skip all these holes, and actually lace it to the rim, then go on the other side and do the same, then come back. To me, that seems redundant and not as efficient. All right, so you guys, as my subscribers, and we've been doing Tech Thursdays for a while now, I think you guys are savvy enough to keep up with what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna skip that step altogether, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna just drop all the spokes in. So, again, keep in mind, you just dropped 9 spokes, thread down into this hub. We're gonna do the same exact thing on the other side, except that keep in mind, like I said, the hub flanges are staggered. So you're gonna look for the one that's immediately to the right of this one. So again, if you're at the top, let's call this north. The south one, you're gonna drop the spoke. Again, thread down on the one that's to the right of the one that we just dropped. So it's gonna be this hole right here. And sometimes you'll notice that if the top flange is a lot taller than the smaller one, then you have to drop them in at a strange angle. And sometimes that angle is too sharp and it'll cause it to not drop in smoothly. So just thread it a little bit. So this one is like that. So as you can see, I'm spinning the spoke a little bit just to get it started, and then it'll drop nice and smooth. So again, same thing. You're gonna be at the bottom flange, and you're gonna be skipping one. So bottom flange, same as the top, skip one, and again, we're dropping 9. So we're gonna count at the end just to make sure we got 9 here. Make sure my math is right. 36 divided by 4 is 9. So we're doing up here is gonna be 9, down here is gonna be 9, then we're gonna do the opposite. So we're gonna flip this hub, and we're gonna drop the other ones in with the threaded side up. So I'll explain that when we get there. All right, so how many we got left? Grab some more spokes. All right, so once again, just for you guys, I'm gonna count them just to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So got a handful, as you can see, there's 9. Okay. Now, the next part, and let me zoom in just so you guys can see it even better. All right, so in case you couldn't see it clearly, and I know you're gonna miss my face, but it's more important that you guys see this than, you know, see me speaking to you. So again, we skipped every other hole, and then we dropped a spoke. Now, what you're gonna do is, and this is the technique that I use, you're gonna wanna hold the hub in its normal habitat, which would be horizontal. And then what you do is, you make sure all the spokes start dropping. And as you can see, the spoke has a little angle right there. So that angle means that when you drop it in straight, you're gonna wanna bend it up, and that angle will be what's on the inside of the hub flange. So, as you can see, I've done that. And then what you do is flip it. So now that it's flipped, you can see that all the spokes are bent into the proper position, and they're being held basically by the spoke head, the angle, and the hub. And now what we're gonna do is the opposite of what we did earlier. So these are now head down, and what you're gonna wanna do is drop these, again, thread down, but had we been flipped over this way, you would have actually been pulling them up. So as you can see, driving them from the bottom all the way up, and then dropping them down, making sure this L drops down and the head is on the inside. But instead, like I said, what you could do is just completely flip the hub, make sure that all the spokes are in the L position. And the reason you want to do that is that kind of locks them in place, and they're not going to drop while the hub is flipped around. And now it's easier because you know that if you skipped each and every other hole, there's only one position that the spoke can drop into. So again, keep dropping it into every open hole, because now these head up spokes are going to be skipping where the head down one is already in its place. So no big deal. It kind of makes sense, right? Anyways, we got 9 at the bottom. Now I got to put 9 more at the top. Oh, got a customer. Yeah, I forgot to mention, we're a store, so every once in a while there's customers that come in. Actually, they come in pretty often. I try and hide in the back. I know you guys are out there. I know you guys come to California and visit us, and you're looking for me. Well, I hide. Okay, so let's finish this up. We're dropping these in every open hole because we already skipped every other one, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Boom. And you're done. So basically, as you can see, well, see, that's the important part. If you don't lock them in place, they will fall out. So make sure that these are in their L position. All the up ones, all the ones we did at the beginning should be in their L position. That way it'll keep them locked and they won't fall out of place. All right, so right now, as you can see, it kind of looks like a mess. You know, there's spokes in every direction and you don't know what to do or what goes where. Well, I'm gonna show you what goes next. So, grab your rim. Now, first thing you wanna do is look for the biggest hole, and that hole will be right here at the bottom for me, and that's the valve stem hole. So if you look closely, right here where my finger is, valve stem hole. What you're gonna wanna do is, keep in mind, a rim has holes on both sides of it, and we're gonna be working first with the holes that are on the top, okay? And what you're gonna wanna do is pick the first spoke that is facing heads up. Just grab one that's facing heads up, and we're gonna pick this guy, it's facing heads up. Once you pick that one, you wanna like kind of make sure all the other spokes drop down a little bit. That way it'll make your life easier. So here we go. Face up, and you're gonna pick the hole that's immediately left of the valve stem. Put that in there. And make sure that there's no rim strip on the rim. As you can see, this rim has a rim strip, so I gotta remove that. Down the table. And now, very importantly, you put one nipple on top, and you just thread it in lightly. You wanna give it 1, 2, maybe 3 spins. Nothing crazy. You just wanna have some play room, but you want to make sure that the nipple just doesn't fall out. So as you can see, once again, heads up, the hole immediately to the left of the valve stem, we got our first spoke. Okay, now, like I said, originally we dropped all these heads up spokes every other one. So now, you move over the spoke that is immediately to the right because it'll be head down. You grab the next heads up spoke, and again, we're gonna be lacing this wheel 3 cross. So what that means that in between every heads up spoke, when you're placing on the rim, there will be 3 holes. So you can see down here, right here, there's gonna be hole, valve stem, hole on the bottom, hole on the top, hole on the bottom, and hole on the top, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna count, and not the valve stem, do not count this as a hole. You're gonna count 3 holes in between. So we got, again, this is spoke is on the top, you're gonna skip the bottom one, that's 1. You're gonna skip the top one, that's next, that's 2. Skip the third bottom one, 3, and on the next top hole, place the next spoke that's facing upward. So here we go. Thread the nipple, not too much, 1, 2, 3 spins. Okay, and now if you see, there's gonna be heads up, 1 space, heads up, and then on the next hole, and that's gonna be the next face up nipple. So what you're doing is kind of like what we did down here. You're skipping one of the holes where it's supposed to go. So one more time, we got nipple to the left of the valve stem, then we got 1, and on the second upwards. Then there's gonna be 1 at the bottom, I'm gonna skip that one, and then the next top hole, you're not gonna put it there, you're gonna skip that one as well as the next bottom one, and on the next top hole, you're gonna place it there. Darn cops always ruining my videos. There's gonna be 3 holes in between every upward facing nipple that goes into one of these holes. So we'll just continue. It doesn't make sense maybe to some of you at the beginning, but once we continue, it will. You kind of like grab the next spoke that is facing down, you kind of place it to the other direction. And the reason for that is that all the spokes that are facing up are gonna be turned counterclockwise, and then all the ones that are facing down are gonna be clockwise. So right now it doesn't make a lot of sense, but once we get there, you'll see it. And again, we're gonna count 1, 2, 3, and on the 4th hole, that means you skipped 3 holes, you're gonna place the next upward facing spoke into the hole, a nipple, and 3 spins. Grab another heads up spoke, make sure that the heads down ones are not in your way. Once you get kind of good at this, you can actually grab 2 spokes at the same time that are facing up, and you can do it at the same time. So skip 1 top hole, place it there, skip the other top hole, place it there. Again, in between the top holes, there'll be 1 space, but if you count the hole at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, there'll be 3 in between, so it's on the 4th one. Boom. Just completed it. So right now it's still looking a little messy, but if you look at the holes, you will notice that every single other hole has a spoke through it now. So you're safe. All right, so as you look on this side, so that way it's not as cluttered, you will see that there is 1 spoke facing up in every other hole. So what does that mean now? That we're gonna have to find the spot where the opposite one goes. So how you do this is you first grab the hub, make sure there's no spokes that's like actually hitting the rim, and you're gonna twist it. You're gonna just twist the hub counterclockwise as far as you can, and make sure that all the spokes are all the way through, make sure that all the nipples are all the way through the holes, and you twist it counterclockwise. So now, as you can see, all the spokes are now no longer straight. As you can see, they're all diagonals as opposed to straight lines. Okay, so now what you want to do is look at the valve stem. Okay, the valve stem is right here. We've twisted it counterclockwise as far as it can go. And what you do is you grab all these heads up spokes and you start flipping them counterclockwise as well. Okay, now we got them all counterclockwise. And basically what you want to do is you're going to always use the valve stem as a point of reference. Find the valve stem, find the spoke that's immediately to the left of it, and then look at it here. As you can see, it's heads up, and you're going to count one spoke that is down, one spoke that is up, one spoke that is down, one spoke that is up, and the next downward spoke is the one that's going to go immediately to the left of that. Okay, so now very important, when placing this spoke, when you're doing all the head down ones, this spoke is actually going to cross underneath. So you might need to bend it a little bit to get it underneath the one that's heads up, cross it over, and then place it in the hole. When you're building the wheel sometimes, you might notice that some spokes poke through the top a little more than others. Don't worry, as you're building the wheel, it'll start twisting and then you'll be pushing the hub outward, and that'll actually create the proper distance for each spoke to be placed. Okay, so now that we got the first one in, the rest is cake. Next one, same thing. And now, like I said, everything starts falling into place because this one that's heads up will now go in the spoke hole that is immediately to the right of the valve stem that's facing upwards. Remember, you gotta make sure you're on the same side. And you might have to bend it a little bit. And then again, just wanna spin the nipple on there. 1, 2, maybe just 3 spins. So once you get the first one out of the way, the rest of the wheel starts making perfect sense because there's only 1 or 2 different places you can put it. And if you're starting to put them too far, you'll notice they won't reach or they'll stick out way too much. So there's only one position that they can really be placed in. So again, under, little bend, get the nipple in there. And this just starts falling into place. Okay, and as I was mentioning earlier, so as you notice, the hub and the spokes are very flat. In order for this to work properly, you actually have to push the hub outward, and that'll cause the spokes to basically bow out a little bit, and that will give each spoke the proper distance. So sometimes you gotta push it a little more than others, but this one is pretty stiff. So again, all you gotta do is push it over a little bit, and all those spokes will pull into position. And as you can see, we have one side completed. So that means that if you look closely, there's these patterns. So I call these A's, or V's, I guess you could call them. And every V, a heads up and a heads down, all of these should be paired up. So you got one pair here, one pair there, one pair there. And if you think about it, you have 9 pairs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 little pairs of V's. And now all you gotta do is flip the rim over and do the same exact thing on the other side. And then start making sure that these lock into the L position so that they don't fall down and through the hub, and then you have to like rebuild it. So boom, 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 all these face down, all the other ones are facing up. And now, very important to remember, we're gonna be starting using the valve stem hole. So there's the valve stem right here. We're gonna be starting with the hole immediately to the left of it. And what you're gonna wanna do is remember that the wheel is now flipped. So on this side, the bottom side of the hub flange here goes with the bottom side of all the spokes. And now the top side of all these holes in the rim goes with all the top side flange spokes. Okay? So what you do is, again, find the first spoke on the bottom that's to the left of the valve hole. And then you're gonna go all the way down and follow it there. Now the one that is exactly matching this one up here is this guy. So as you can see, this heads up spoke will now have to match this heads up spoke that's down below. And if you like kind of try and line them up, you see they line up, and boom, look, all the way to the top, boom, matches that hole that again is immediately to the left of the valve stem. I'm gonna place that there. Again, when you're looking down, you see this pattern? It's following this one right here. This one that's down below, if you were to flip the rim, it's actually to the right of the valve stem, as you can see. Valve stem is right there to the right. When you flip it back, it's actually, when you're looking down, it's to the left. See, this is the complementary one. That's down below, that's to the right of the valve stem, but when you're looking down, it's to the left of the valve stem. So this one will follow that same trajectory, and boom, you found your first one. So now, back to that other angle so you can see me do this. So again, we're working with all the spokes that are facing upward right now, and they're on the top side of the rim. And of course, you really can't mess up because you can't put it on the bottom side of the rim because we already got all those holes filled. Okay, so again, there's gonna be one facing upward that you're gonna twist to the left, and now the immediate heads up one skips one hole here, thread the nipple. Once you get good at it, you can do 2 at a time, so that's what I'll be doing. But I'll be explaining it either way. So again, heads up, you skip one head down, heads up, and you place the one, there should be one in between, and if you count the complete holes, there should be 3 in between. So 1, 2, 3. The 4th hole is where you place the next heads up. And like I said, once you keep doing this, it'll make a lot of sense, and then you'll be really left with no room for mistakes. Okay, so find the next heads up spoke, it's right here. You move the one that's heads down to the opposite side, just so it's not in the way. All right, so now that you have all the spokes that are facing up in their proper hole, the last thing to do is go back to the valve stem, and then make sure all the head down spokes are facing counterclockwise. So now that you found the valve stem hole, you find the spoke that's immediately to the right of it at the bottom, and then you find the one to the top that matches up with it. So this one is facing head down. You find head down here. It's, if you look at it, it's gonna be directly, okay? So if you match them up, heads down the one below, and then you put it in the first opening to the right of that valve stem. So it's gonna go here. And again, all the ones that are facing down, they have to cross underneath the ones that are facing upwards. So cross it underneath, place it in the first open hole to the right of the valve stem, and voila. That's gonna be the last guide you're gonna need because every other one has to fit exactly where the next open hole is because this is the last quarter of those spokes. So we got 9 more to put into place. So again, now you find the next one, which is this guy, and it's gonna go underneath this cross, and it's gonna be the next open hole that's to the left of the valve stem. And you're gonna go and so on and so forth. Okay, so now the next one that's facing heads down, cross it underneath the next open one. And when you're crossing it underneath, you gotta make sure that this is the hole that you're gonna be placing it into. You're gonna be crossing it underneath the spoke that's immediately to the right of it. So this heads up spoke is the one that's immediately to the right of the next open hole. So the one that's head down is gonna cross underneath it. 3 spins. Next spoke that's facing down, you're gonna cross underneath the next one to the right of the hole you're gonna place it. So it goes underneath, right through, drop the nipple in place. And this is the completely last spoke we're gonna be placing. As you can see, there's no other opening that we have left. So once again, heads down, it's gonna cross underneath the next heads up spoke that's immediately to the right of that hole. Boom, nipple, and voila. And there you have it. The wheel is completely laced. As I mentioned earlier, the reason that you keep the nipples a little loose is so you have wiggle room to place the hub where it belongs. So you're gonna wanna kind of make sure all the nipples are still in. As you can see here, I've dropped one. It's very important. Sometimes you don't throw them enough and they'll fall out. But the important part here is to make sure that all the nipples go all the way through the hole, because sometimes they kind of lock in place and it won't let you shift the hub accordingly. Okay, so now that it's all in place, the next thing is to get it on the truing stand. All right, so the last step, truing the actual wheel. So like I mentioned earlier, we only hand tightened all of these nipples. So now when you're gonna be tightening them up, you wanna keep in mind that you wanna do this evenly. If you twist a nipple 1 turn, you're gonna wanna do the 1 turn on every single 36 of these spokes. So I've been doing this for a while, so I know that we can get away with 2 or 3 turns. So let's just do 3 for now. And like always, you wanna start where the valve stem hole is. So right here. You wanna make sure your hub is tight in the truing stand, because if not, that'll make your day a little more difficult. And here we go. So this first spoke that is north of the valve stem is where we start. And we'll do one. This one seems like it's protruding quite a bit, so we could probably get away with like a few spins. So I'm just gonna finger tighten it first, just to make sure it's all the way through. If the spoke wrench starts this way, the horseshoe facing upwards, and you come all the way around to where it faces upward again, that's one whole spin. So we're gonna do 3 of those. So I just did 1, here's 2, and there is 3, okay? Same thing for this one. And if the nipple isn't all the way past the rim where you can reach it, you can just kind of like bend the spoke, and that'll help you like get it into the actual spoke wrench. If not, you can always do it from the top. All right, so once you've gone around the whole wheel and you've kind of like tightened them all evenly, then you'll see that it's becoming pretty true. Again, you're gonna continue doing this. So now that we've done 3, you can go around and just do 1 spin on each. All right, so as you can see, gone around a little bit, and now I'm getting the clamps closer to the rim, and that way I'll be able to find out where the hops are. So here's a hop, so I gotta tighten this whole area. Again, I explained in another tutorial, but when you have a hop, that means that the rim is not pulled tightly enough, so the rim is actually bouncing down. When that happens, it taps the bottom here of the actual truing stand, and so what you have to do is tighten up these 4 spokes. So again, I talked about this in forms of V's, and you have this little V here, and if that's rubbing, then what you want to do is tighten these 4. So I'm going to tighten all 4. I'm going to do about a half a spin on each. So that's half, 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 and then half, and see how much it's still rubbing. And now it's barely touching, so we can get a quarter. So we'll do a quarter here, quarter here, quarter there, and a quarter here. Boom, no more rub right there. All right, so now that we've gone through and it's pretty tight, we can find the imperfections. So these little clamps here will help guide us as to how to true the wheel. So when it touches on the right, as we see here, what you want to do is tighten the 2 spokes on the left. So usually we either want to act in these like little V's or these 2 parallels. So right now it's rubbing mostly in between these 2 parallels. So we're going to tighten these 2 up. So give it about a quarter spin here and a quarter spin here. So again, keep in mind that these spokes are all the radius of a circle. So if all of these are evenly tensioned, then the wheel will be perfectly centered. And that means that the hub and the axle will be centered and equidistant from every point on the circle. If it's untrue anywhere, that just means that one of the spokes is either too tight or too loose. So that's what we're going to try and find. All right, so we're at the very final stages where the rim has very little play in it. So as you can see, it's barely tapping down here. So that means there's a little tiny hop. I'm going to be tightening up this one half a spin and the one on the left. So again, you always want to do, when you're working on the hop, you want to do the complementary ones. So that means left and right. When you're working on a side that it's tapping on one side, you want to do the opposite side, and you want to work on 2 spokes there as well. You want to always keep it even. Okay, so let's see where else. And like I said, you get these clamps closer, and that'll give you more precise tuning. Okay, again, it's tapping at the bottom, so you're going to do the left one and the right one here. So the one on the right gets a quarter of a spin, and the one opposite it on the left gets a quarter of a spin as well. So it's rubbing on the left side and not because of a bounce, just because it's rubbing on the left. So again, tighten up the right. I'm going to tighten the little 2 pair right here. Boom, that fixed the rub a little bit. All right, and that's all she wrote. As you can see, she's pretty true. All right, one thing to keep in mind, rims are welded. So this is actually a piece of aluminum that was bent into the shape, and right here is a seam. So a lot of them are actually pinned or either just completely welded here. This part sometimes causes you to think that you have a bad hop when you're truing it, but just keep that in mind that that's going to be the little slight blemish or imperfection, but the rest of the wheel should be pretty true. And as you can see, it passes the test. All right, and I think that's going to wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to tune in every Thursday for Tech Thursdays, where I drop an informative bike tutorial. And if you want to learn bike tricks, then I have How to Tuesdays. It drops every Tuesday. And the last one we did was a turn down, so keep checking in for different tutorials and how-tos and all my daily vlogs that I do, because yes, this channel is daily, so I have a post every single day. So much love from here at OSS. For those of you who don't know, that's on some shit in the downtown LA area. Me, Gucci Man, and Tony wish you guys a really lovely weekend. And don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and then tune in tomorrow. I appreciate it. Much love. Peace.